US markets closed mixed with the Dow Jones ending in the red, while the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq climbing ahead of the US jobs report later this evening. Asian markets also trade in the green ahead of the jobs data, while the GIFT Nifty is indicating a flat start for our own markets. Oil prices tick lower as President Trump repeats the pledge to boost US supply. Gold continues to hover around record high levels as trade war fears fuel haven demand. 70% of market participants polled by CNBC TV18 expect a 25 basis point rate cut from the Reserve Bank of India today. 70% of them also expect the rate cuts of at least 75 basis points in this cycle in what will be the new Governor Sanjay Malhotra's first policy. ITC's Q3 results were X of the hotel business. The cigarette volume growth was better than expectations, while the FMCG business disappointed. For Britannia, it was a good quarter with an all-round beat. Hero MotoCorp reports an in-line set of numbers. And the Union Cabinet is likely to take up the new income tax bill today, and if it's cleared, the bill could be introduced in the Lok Sabha early next week. Good morning. It's the final trading day of the week, but when has the final trading day of the week ever been devoid of any action? You're watching Power Breakfast on CNBC TV18 in the Mumbai News Center. I'm Hormuz Fatakia. Let's first take a look at how the Asian markets have started off this morning. And it's a green screen, if you can call it that, but it's erring on the cautious side as it was Wall Street's session as well last night. You can see the Hang Seng trading with gains of just around 0.4%. The Taiwanese index, after the outperformance through the week, is now trading at the flat line. The Nikkei in Japan is trading below the flat line, while the Hang Seng, the Shanghai index, both are trading in the green with gains of around 0.2 to 0.4%. The Kospi too is trading below the flat line in South Korea. So it's a mixed picture that's emerging out of the Asian market. So take a look at how the GIFT Nifty is also indicating, well, it's an improvement from a few minutes earlier when the implied open was suggesting a 5 to 10 point down tick. Now it's suggesting a 34 point uptick. So most likely we're possible that we start off in the green ahead of the all-important RBI policy at 10 a.m. But we'll get to that in just a bit. But moving to Wall Street first, where Thursday's trading session was a mixed bag because the Dow ended in the red, the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq also ended in the green, and this is ahead of the January jobs report that will be released later this evening. Meanwhile, on the earnings front, Amazon's fourth quarter numbers were good. They were better than expected, but it has given a disappointing guidance for the current period, and as a result of which the stock fell in after hours trading. Staying with Wall Street, let us also listen in to Citi Research's Drew Petit as he shares what he thinks the market is waiting for next, as a flurry of macro data is expected today and next week.
It could be any of the data points as it affects rates. It could be any of the policies as we think about, potential tariffs and trade. And then the last thing that I think we're watching really closely is dollar volatility. I feel like we just moved past the tariff discussion, but maybe that comes back in 30 days. Maybe that comes back when we start talking about the House reconciliation bill. But at the end of the day, honestly, any of those things, because I think we're in a heightened macro sensitivity world, even though we're in the middle of earnings season.
And let's now get to the final update in our global market wrap this morning. Stocks in Europe closed at record highs amid a flurry of earnings and the Bank of England's decision to cut rates by 25 basis points. The CAC climbed 1.5%. The DAX also rose a similar quantum in Germany, while the FTSE ended with gains of over 1%. So good going for the European markets last night. But that's all the global market action that we have. But how will all of these overnight cues impact our own markets? Our research team is joining in with the trade setup, the stocks that are likely to be in the news this morning. First up, Vinny is joining in to get all the market cues we need to watch out for. Vinny, good morning. It's a big day today out of the RBI policy. What's the trade setup looking like?
Absolutely an important day that we are keeping an eye out on. Just a throwback to what happened in terms of yesterday's trading session. Nifty, Sensex, they ended lower. Second consecutive day of the Nifty as well as the Sensex entering in the red. Broader markets, they saw some bit of a selling pressure as well. Mid-cap index as well as the small cap, that saw a bit of an underperformance coming in. Nifty Bank, that was some bit of a green that we saw in yesterday's trading session. That was supported by Axis Bank, ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank. Nifty Bank today also will be in focus, given that we are watching out for the rate cut decisions that will be coming coming on from the RBI. FIIs continue to sell in yesterday's trading session as well. So second day of sell coming in from the FIIs. FIIs sold around 3,549 crores, while the DIIs bought 2,721 crores in yesterday's trading session. Like we were saying as well, all eyes are going to be on that RBI's MPC meet decision. This is the first one that is under the new governor, that is Sanjay Malhotra. So keep an eye out on that. We're expecting a 25 basis point repo rate cut this time. Key to watch out for. Other than that, Indian rupee, what is the reaction on that? Because Indian rupee has been weak in the last few sessions as well. So keep an eye out on that. Earnings reaction is what we're watching out from ITC, Britannia, Aurobindo the Pharma, and Nifty implied open indicating a slight bit of a positive start as of now. We'll see if that's going to be sustaining at the end of the day.
All eyes will be on 10 a.m. when the RBI governor comes out with the policy decision, and that will be a key determinant to the market direction. Vinny, thanks a lot for that. Over to Vamakshi now with the stocks to watch in today's session. Vamakshi, good morning.
Well, good morning, Hormaz. Let me first start off with Bharti Airtel. The ARPU has increased to 245 as compared to 208 in the same quarter last year. Mobile data consumption is seeing an uptick of 23.2%, and the net profit has come in significantly higher, and this is mainly on account of an exceptional gain of 7,550 odd crores. ITC, on the other hand, has reported its numbers. ITC's cigarette volume growth came in at 5% as compared to our poll of 3 to 4%. Revenue saw an uptick of 8.6%, came in below estimates, and the net profit is seeing a marginal uptick of 1.2%. Hero MotoCorp's margins have improved by 50 basis points to 14.5%, came in above estimates. Net profit too is seeing a good growth of 12.1%, and the company has declared an interim dividend of 100 rupees per share. Britannia's domestic volume growth came in at 6% as compared to our estimates of 4 to 5%. When we look at the margins, they have declined, but they have come in above street expectations, and the net profit seeing an uptick of 4.8% is above the street's expectations. Apollo Tyres revenue sees an uptick of 5%. The margins has contracted significantly to 13.7%, and the net profit is seeing a downtick of almost 32%. BSE's revenue, EBITDA and margin have come in above estimates. Net profit is, however, seeing a significant downtick of 37% sequentially, mainly on account of higher contribution to Settlement Guarantee Fund or SGF. PG Electroplast has reported a good set, revenue seeing a very strong uptick of 82%. The net profit has doubled to almost 40 crores. And lastly, let's keep an eye out on Religare. US-based investor Digvijay Gaikwad has proposed open offer for 55% stake, has moved the Supreme Court. He has challenged Delhi HC order which allowed Burman open offer to continue. So on the back of this news, we will be keeping an eye out on Religare as well.
Oh yes, indeed. That's the other big development today after the RBI policy. Vamakshi, thanks a lot for highlighting that. And finally, Mangalam joins in with cues from the F&O space. Mangalam, good morning. Well, going into a big event, what's the F&O data indicating here?
Well, there was a fair amount of consolidation on the downside that we saw yesterday. The Nifty closed around the 23,600 mark, lower end of the range at which option writers had written straddles itself. It's spoken about that. The Nifty Bank marginally outperformed, and the mid-cap index was the underperformer. The stocks to watch today would be ITC post its cigarette volume growth beat that has come by. SBI after its results, how much of the negatives are in the price. And the third thing we'll be watching out for is HDFC Bank, because that was the one that single-handedly powered the Nifty Bank ahead in the last couple of hours of trade itself. And speaking about banks, we have the RBI policy outcome that everyone's talking about. For the Nifty Bank itself, the first resistance comes up at the 50-day moving average, which is 50,711. The FIS, they went back to their selling ways for 2 days in a row. Now they've sold once again. 3,500 crore worth selling in the cash market yesterday, and 2,700 crore was the purchase by DIIs. What's interesting is that after a couple of sessions of short covering, the FIS went back on their selling in index futures as well, close to around 1,200 crores. We were talking about how the Nifty Bank will be more important than the Nifty today because of the RBI policy outcome. The FIs believe so too. They've bought about 172 crores in the Nifty Bank, whereas they've sold 1,300 crores in the Nifty futures itself. So they've unwound 3,700 long contracts, added about 3,000 short contracts, and their long exposure, which yesterday was just about 18%, has now come down to 16%. With the net exposure being 1.6 lakh odd on the negative side. 23,600 straddle most active, telling you for the next week options or the next week series, the range that the people are playing for is close to around 23,200, 23,300 at the lower level to 23,900 at the upper level. We'll keep an eye out on that. For the Nifty, the 50-day moving average, an important resistance as well.
That 50-day moving average has been that resistance band all through the week, right? Mangalam, thanks a lot for that. Take a short break. Up next, we get you the key expectations from the big event of the day. That's the RBI policy. Stay tuned. We'll be back on the other side. Welcome back. And the Monetary Policy Committee under the chairmanship of new RBI Governor Sanjay Malhotra is set to announce its interest rate decision later today. Ahead of that, CNBC TV 18's Ritu Singh polled the top economists of the country to find out what the street is expecting. Take a look.
For the first time in nearly 5 years, the Reserve Bank of India could kick off a rate-cutting cycle, making Governor Sanjay Malhotra's debut policy meeting one of the most closely watched in recent history. Now, RBI has been injecting massive liquidity into the banking system in recent days, which some interpret as a precursor to a rate cut, despite the relatively high inflation. So the CNBC TV 18 monetary policy poll shows 70% of market participants and economists are betting on a 25 basis point rate cut this time, driven by the need to support growth. But ignoring the rupee's depreciation can prove tricky, which is why 30% of the respondents still voted for a dovish hold. Now, liquidity remains tight in the system, but a cash reserve ratio cut at this point seems unlikely. But 60% of the respondents do expect additional liquidity easing measures like more OMOs, longer duration repos, or a cut in the incremental CRR for NRI deposits. Of course, markets will also watch closely for any clarity on the new LCR norms, which are set to kick in from the 1st of April. Now, external factors are going to add a lot of complexity to this policy. RBI is likely to acknowledge the risk from the tariff threats and stay nimble, but a small section of the market believes that inflationary tariffs and a weakening rupee could be used as an argument to push out rate cuts. But the broader consensus is RBI will allow a gradual rupee adjustment while ensuring stability. Now, markets are already pricing in steeper rate cuts beyond February, with most expecting anywhere between 75 to 100 basis points cut in this cycle to give a helping hand to growth. Now, despite these expectations of rate cuts, the monetary policy stance is likely to be left unchanged at neutral. But as for the tone, 40% do anticipate a dovish tilt, while the majority expect it to be neutral. Now, growth expectations are softening. 90% of our respondents predict that RBI will lower its FY25 GDP forecast to 6.4 to 6.5%. That could further strengthen the case for easing. But the inflation forecast is unlikely to be tinkered with in this policy. So all eyes are going to be on Governor Malhotra's debut policy move. Will he pull the trigger on a rate cut or stay cautious amid global risks? The stakes are high and the markets are going to be watching.
Ritu, thanks a lot for that. Of course, all eyes will be on the governor's debut policy, whether he hits it out of the park. The bulls would definitely be hoping for that. Well, the battle for control of Religare has moved to the Supreme Court ahead of the AGM today. Now, Florida-based investor Digvijay Gaikwad has moved the apex court to challenge the open offer issued by the Burman family. Now, separately, the Delhi High Court has dismissed a plea filed by Rashmi Saluja against her removal in the upcoming AGM, and she may also consider seeking urgent relief from the Supreme Court. Ashmit has more on this. Ashmit.
Well, two important triggers to watch for as far as Religare Enterprises is concerned. Bear in mind, Rashmi Saluja, beginning with that in terms of her fate as the chairperson of Religare Enterprises. Now, late last afternoon, she had moved the Delhi High Court. The Delhi High Court, however, had rejected her application when she sought a stay on the resolution in the upcoming AGM for her removal. She had said that this removal would be illegal. She'd said that it would be in violation of the Companies Act, that her tenure extends till February of 2028. The Delhi High Court, however, would have none of it, saying that if at all her case is found to be true, there could be monetary compensation. But for now, no prima facie case made out, and therefore no stay granted on that AGM. So that AGM, which is scheduled at 12, will continue. The proposal for her removal will also continue. This will also see voting by shareholders. And importantly, her lawyers, Dr. Saluja's lawyers, confirming that there is no immediate move being made by her legal team to move the apex court for any urgent relief. So perhaps the end of the road for Dr. Saluja as far as Religare Enterprises is concerned. But what about the open offer? Well, that's another key question that will be up for consideration before the highest court of the country. Digvijay Gaikwad, the US-based investor who's proposing an open offer for 55% at 275 rupees a share. Well, he's filed an SLP. He's filed an application before the highest court of the country. This case will be taken up today. He's essentially arguing, he's challenging the Delhi High Court order which had allowed the Burman open offer to continue. So crossing swords with that Burman, the Burman open offer, this case is due to be taken up by the CJI-led bench of the Supreme Court.
Ashmet, thanks a lot for that. There's some interesting developments that came in last evening. The board of Zomato has approved the decision to change the name of its parent company to Eternal. And Shilpa Ranipeta is joining in with more on this. Shilpa, why this change?
Well, Zomato has gone the Meta or the alphabet way. It has gotten board approval to rename the corporate entity from Zomato to Eternal. And Eternal will now comprise of 4 major businesses. That's Zomato, Blinkit, District and Hyperpure. And post-approval, the corporate website of the company will also transition from Zomato.com to Eternal.com. The stock ticker, also more importantly, will change from Zomato to Eternal. Now, Dipinder's letter to shareholders suggests that this change in name was conceived at least 3 years ago. They actually started using Eternal internally when they acquired Blinkit, and Dipinder says that they wanted to rename it publicly the day it became something beyond Zomato. I mean, the day beyond Zomato, something became a significant driver of the business, which today, of course, is the quick commerce business Blinkit. But why Eternal? Dipinder says that this is a powerful name and a tall order to live up to. But remember, this is just the change in the name of the corporate entity that hosts its businesses, and the app that you order food on, that will continue to be called Zomato. Back to you.
Important clarification that from Shilpa, the app name will remain unchanged. Take a short break. Up next, we get you cues from the commodity side. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, and what could be a major development? Sources have told CNBC TV18 that the Union Cabinet, chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, is likely to take up the new income tax bill in its meeting today. Now, it will pave the way for the introduction of the bill in the Lok Sabha as early as next week. Now, the legislation is part of the centre's broader effort to simplify and modernize India's tax system, making it more streamlined and transparent. And Manisha Gupta now joins in with all the updates from the commodities space. Manisha, good morning. Final trading day of the week. But what are the commodities indicating today?
Thank you for that, Hormuz. Well, I'll start with the crude oil prices, which are headed for a weekly decline, down 2% in this week, while the U.S. president continues to reiterate increasing oil supplies. The U.S. inventories also have increased, and the markets believe that there will be an increase in the non-OPEC supplies as well. There was a report from Citi overnight which says that the Brent prices could decline to $60 or $65 a barrel in the second half of 2025. The strength, though, has continued when it comes to metals as a sector. Copper is trading at a 4-month highs in the Asian markets right now. The fall in US dollar, slightly easing concerns over global trade war, and positive PMI data coming in from China and US have supported many of these industrial commodities.
Manisha, thanks a lot for that. Important updates there coming in on the commodity front as well. But with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Power Breakfast for the week. From me and the team that put this show together, thank you so much for watching. Bazaar Morning Call sets you up for this big trading day.